Hey friends, Kevin here, and today we're going to talk about these time changes from daylight saving time to standard time and what it means to you when you're out traveling. Hey Budget Bear, do we like this time change? No? What do we really think of it? Yeah. Okay, living on this wonderful planet Earth, time will basically move about a minute a day. There's times through the year when you're gaining basically a minute a day in the evening, and there's times that you're losing a minute a day. So we're already into that phase where we're losing that minute a day, and it's getting darker a little bit earlier. Now we pop over here, that's changed to standard time, and we lose another hour in the evening. And this causes a lot of, I guess you could say problems, but a lot of issues if you're doing van life or if you're traveling a lot. And the big one is, as we go from this point now really on into about December 20th, when you're going to have the shortest day of the year, you have a whole lot of dark hours to deal with. And this is one of the reasons why I prefer summer. I like 16-hour days. I like the nighttime too, but all of this daylight time and daylight hours, there's more stuff you can go out and you can do and you can explore. You start having that limited more and more and more when you're doing this stuff into the fall and into the winter as far as traveling. Because you're going to get down to these points where you basically only have 8 or 9 hours of daylight, which means you have 15 or 16 hours of darkness to deal with. And if you're in an area where the weather is bad and it's just rainy, or it's really cold, or you're in a more of a deserted place, there is nothing for you to do. And I think this is what a lot of people have trouble with when they first go on the road or they first start doing a lot of traveling. If you're with somebody, it's a little bit better. If you're by yourself, you're really going to have to kind of plan ahead and understand this. Because when December comes, it is going to be dark down in this section of the USA. It's going to be dark around 5:20 p.m. And by the time it gets dark, it's going to be cold. So you aren't going to be able to really be outside of your van doing anything. Because depending on where you're at, you may not be able to do campfires. It may be rainy. It may, you may be staying in a town somewhere instead of 20 miles back up in the woods at a campground. And that's going to happen more because as you travel through these areas, especially in the east, there's a lot of campgrounds that are closed down right now. They are closed until March or April. They close at different times through October into the first day of November. And this is going to happen with a lot of national forest stuff. It's going to happen with a lot of state parks. So you're not going to have those places as camp spots for the night that you can build a campfire and sit around with your friends and kill some time that way. So you need to think of this as you are going to be stuck in your van. Now, one of the things I do is I have a little Kindle Fire, just a cheap tablet, and I have an Amazon subscription, so I can download stuff when I'm in an area where I have internet access. I can download it and watch it later, movies or TV shows. So that gives me access to that. Some of you, depending on where you're at, if you're traveling, you know, I know some people travel with a TV. I don't want to give up the space for a TV, deal with the hassles. But if you have a TV, you have that ability. You, of course, then with an antenna, you can pull in some local television channels maybe. That doesn't really work for what I want to do, so I'm good with just downloading things to be able to watch later. And reading and books, and you know, I know Cindy likes, you know, puzzle books and crossword puzzles, but I'm telling you, this time between, if you're the kind of person that falls asleep at midnight, if you're lucky and you're going to get up the next morning and you're not trying to get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning like you did, you know, when you had a house and you were getting up and getting ready to go to work, and it's going to be colder and more miserable when you get up. So, you know, maybe you're on a midnight to 8 a.m. kind of sleep schedule. Well, now you have this time between 5:30 and midnight. You know, that's 6.5 hours that you have to find a way to entertain yourself. And if you're not prepared for this, when you go out, it has the potential to make you really, really miserable, and may have the potential to make you want to throw in the towel on this whole thing. So, as long as you know this is what you're facing ahead of time, then you can kind of plan for it and deal with it and figure out what works for you as far as how to fill in those cold, lonely hours so it doesn't just drive you crazy. Now, if you follow this channel, like you know, I have 2 vans that I travel in at different times. One is a minivan, and one is a larger full-size van, conversion van that has a lot more options and niceties. We have done this in the minivan before, and the big van also, but in the minivan, it does become a little bit harder because you have, again, a smaller space. You're not quite as hidden from everything, even though you're putting things on the windows. And it's a little more of a hassle because you're having to deal with the heat and cold issues depending on what part of the country you're in order to get through the night. But it can be done, and it can be done in any vehicle. People do it all the time. So don't let that discourage you. So I hope I've given you something to think about. Those of you that are out and doing this or have done this before, you know, put down in the comment sections and share with everybody else on here what you do to fill in those hours, what you do to pass the time. And speaking of time, we'll see you next time.